wanted to know before you came here, or something that comes up as we're speaking and you go, what do they mean by that? Please feel free to ask at any point. I don't want anybody leaving here without getting the question answered. And if we can't answer it for you, we'll do our best to get you that answer later. I'll be happy to hand you my business card and say, give me a call and I'll find out for you. Because that's the point of this, is to give you a little bit of instruction, or I'm sorry, information and history and a little more knowledge than maybe you came here with. One thing that I like about Richard, we have several different artists that travel with people like myself, the DSMs, and play the instruments. But one thing that's unique about Richard is he's also one of the warranty or authorized service centers for us, so he's intimately involved in the repair of the guitars. And I think that's kind of cool. Also, Richard has a history with the company where he used to work for Martin as an employee. So he brings a lot of insight that just some of the other artists don't. And so I'm privileged to have this guy with me when I can. So before I say any more, I'm going to let Richard tell you a little bit about himself, and then we'll carry on.
Okay, I'm, hello, check 1, 2. A little volume
Is
here.
this thing on?
Yeah, hello. The PA system here? Vocal mic? Hello. Anyway, I'll talk without it. Anyway, I'm a native of New England. I'm from Hartford, Connecticut, and I grew up with musical parents. My mom and dad played music. Dad was a sax and clarinet, piano. My mom played violin and piano. So I heard a lot of music growing up, and one year they took me and my brothers to the University of Hartford where the Kingston Trio was playing, and that's where I'd seen my first guitar. And I just, and I saw these guitars they were playing had this little script on peghead, which was hard to read at the time. So I got interested in guitar music. I took saxophone lessons, but it wasn't my thing. So, and then I got a guitar for Christmas one year, and me and my older brothers had it for, I didn't have too much until they went away to school. And then, and the music I was listening to, everybody was playing those guitars with the script on the top, and I found out what they were, and ended up buying a D28 in 1970. And then I bought a D35 after that, and I bought a D1228 after that, and then I bought a D45 after that, and I sold them all and bought some other stuff, other mark guitars. Anyway, so I also worked for another guitar company in Connecticut, Ovation Guitars, one with a round back. I worked in Command Music. I worked for them for about 15 years, and and I worked in the Martin factory for 8 years, and I've been out doing warranty work and these events for probably close to 18 years now, I think. So. But anyway, and I'm a player. I love to fix them. I wish I could play them as much as I repair them. But anyway, here we are in North Carolina, and one of my guitar heroes is from North Carolina. Passed away a few years ago. Is the late great Doc Watson, whose birth name was Arthur Lane Watson. So I came over to the service I live over in Nashville, Tennessee, and my wife and I drove over, and I had a little melody in my head, and I didn't know what to call it, so I thought, going through that trip to Deep Gap, North Carolina, where Doc lived, that I'd make up a little tune for Doc. So I made this tune up I'm going to play, and Doc's birth name was Arthur Lane Watson, so I named this tune the Arthur Lane Ramble, because it's got a bunch of Doc Watson licks in it and a few of my own. It goes like this. custom dreadnought guitar, HD28. It has a Adirondack spruce top on it, and what else can you tell me about this guitar? I don't have the spec sheet in front of me, but
What-
Chris has more information on this particular one.
What that is the custom shop came to us, the SMs, and said, we'll make some customs for you guys, specifically for your territory. Come up with something. I wanted to come up with something relatively simple to show that a custom shop doesn't have to be that expensive. Just make a couple of small changes. So basically, that's just an Adirondack spruce top with Adirondack scallop bracing on what would be normally like just a regular HD28 type of guitar. So that's what I did, just so that you could hear the difference in the sound too between the Adirondack spruce. But because sometimes when I say custom, people say, oh, that's going to be really expensive. But no, you can just make a few minor changes just because we don't build one that way. And that's what people do when they come to the art and custom shop. They'll call and say, hey, all I want is just an Adirondack spruce top. All I want is different tuning keys sometimes. You know, different tuning keys, some different inlays, maybe some pearl work. And then you have created the guitar that you wish we made, but we don't. But we'll make it just for you. Custom shop's great. And one more thing I want to say is the custom shop literally is a shop within the company. It's a factory within the factory. I think some companies call custom anything that's deviating from a standard model. And so they just basically take a production guitar and they'll put a little change on it. It goes down the line. We have a factory within the factory that what I like to say is the best of the best. Well, the only guys that work in the custom shop are the best of our luthiers, our craftsmen. And it's a whole different thing. So you can make a minor change, but there's something special. I think there's a little bit of magic in everything that comes out of the custom shop, because those are the people that put those together. So basically that's the only difference you're going to find between that and a standard series model.
This is probably one of the most popular models Martin makes is the HD28. Of course, this is a custom version of it, but HD28 is really a very versatile guitar. I own one myself, and they have a little bit of everything in their tone. They have good trebles, they have good strong mid-range, and they have a good strong bass. But they have, and then the mid-range. I love mine, and this one's mine is a Sitka top, this is Adirondack, so, but this is one fine guitar. Anyway, let's see, I'll play something that was a tune that Doc actually wrote with Bill Monroe, and it's called the Watson Blues. This is a blues tune, that other one was kind of fiddle tune-like. This is the Watson Blues.
it's a Martin original, actually, the shape of this guitar, the size of this guitar. And everybody makes one. It's one of those things like, I'll say in the tool world, a crescent wrench. Crescent wrench is actually a brand name. Crescent is the brand name. It's an adjustable wrench, but anybody picks up one of these adjustable, they say, oh, hand me that Crescent wrench, right? Hand me that Kleenex. Kleenex is a brand name. They're tissues, but we all say Kleenex, but it's a brand name. The Dreadnought is a Martin original, yet everybody makes one. It's the 100th anniversary of the Dreadnought, and you may see things lately, if you go to the website or whatever, it's going to say centennial of the Dreadnought, because we're kind of proud of it. How the Dreadnought came about, in early days of guitar making, guitars were smaller in general, and this is more representative of what guitars were like. This is a double O body size, and we make a single O, which would look like this, only a little bit smaller, and we make a triple O. And the triple O is he's holding. So it's a similar shape, but it's a little bit smaller, and then there would be a third one, a single O. And that's part of the nomenclature. So when we talk about them in terms of body size and then style. So this is a triple O 17. 17 is the style, meaning the appointment, the level of appointment. The higher the number, the fancier looking. So this one right here would be a 18 style, a little fancier. And as the higher number goes, we go up significantly higher. You're going to see, like on a D45 or whatever, we're going to see pearl work and things. So that's, when we're talking about these names, I just don't want that to get lost. There is a method to the nomenclature. But when guitars were in their infancy, like I say, they were smaller, what we call maybe parlor-sized guitars. We were making guitars for a company called the Ditson Company that was a distributor. They didn't make guitars, we made them, put their name on it. And they came to us and said, would you make a larger size guitar, because we're getting requests for something that can project more. So we came up with that body size. How we came up with the name was C.F. Martin at the time said, well, this is a big guitar. I want a big name for it. And it would just happen to coincide with the development of the Dreadnought battleship that the British had come out with. And so as the story goes, he said, yeah, that's the perfect name. The biggest battleship in the world is a Dreadnought. This is the biggest guitar. We'll call it the Dreadnought. And that was 100 years ago. The Ditson Company has long since gone out of business, but we continued making that Dreadnought size, and for over 100 years. And this is the anniversary of it. So as we talk about these model numbers, there's a significance to the nomenclature. And right now he's holding, this is another custom shop.
This is a triple O. Reason I picked this guitar up was the first guitar I played was, of course, Dreadnought shape, but it had Indian rosewood back and sides. And this one also has Indian rosewood back and sides, but this is figured Indian rosewood. Look at that. Isn't that incredible? Wait till you hear the guitar. I've never seen one like that. It's just
We call that wild grain. It's East Indian rosewood, but wild grain rosewood.
So you see, it doesn't have the power in the low end like the Dreadnought did, but this is a nice little finger style guitar. I'll play a little finger style for you. finger style together. That's where I use the. This is a tune I'm gonna play is actually a tune that was played on electric guitar. A fellow named Don Rich wrote this. He was a guitar player that played with Buck Owens, and he did this. Came up with this tune called Buckaroo.
Correct.
On the bass string, and not quite as loud.
Right. But still pretty good.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, I picked up this one. This is even smaller than the last one I played, and it's constructed of mahogany backing sides instead of rosewood. So mahogany generally gives you a brighter, crisper, but at the same time a warm tone as well. And it has the short scale, so it's really nice for, if you want to do some bends, you can do that. It's a lot easier to do that on a short scale instrument than it is a long scale instrument. So I like it for that reason.
And we should mention this is a brand new series for 2016. It's the 17 series, and again, 17 is the appointment style. So it's not going to be as fancy looking as a 18 or a 28. But it's a very unique instrument. Okay, I gotta speak. Sorry, I hate to interrupt him, but only because what's unique about this instrument is the finish on it is the thinnest finish we put on a guitar currently. And we want to talk a little bit as we go along the evening about finishes and what we do differently than some other manufacturers and why we do it. But in particular, a thin finish is something that even in the custom shop, when people put a custom together, they request that. They say, I want a thin lacquer finish or whatever, because the thinner the finish, the more the guitar speaks, And this is as thin as we do. And I asked for a point of reference. I said, well, I don't understand. I mean, it looks like a satin finish. And I said, this is a satin finish on our 15 series. And they said, no. The thickness on this is 5 mil thick, okay? So I guess that's 5/1000th of an inch or whatever. This is a 1/2 mil. So even though I'm not real good at math, I kind of figured out that that's 10 times thicker than this. Or this is 1/10 as thick as that. So as far as getting as thin a finish as we can do to let that wood talk, that's what we do on this guitar. It's a very simple looking guitar. What Richard will demonstrate, it sounds pretty good for a little 00 body size.
Do a little got a wonderful tone. Finger style on it, and there's a little blues. Now the way I've been treated, sometimes I wish I was dead. Now the way I've been treated, sometimes I wish I was dead. 'Cause I ain't got a place to lay my weary head. You let me go, let me go, let me go. When I want you, woman, always find you gone. Well, now every time I want you, always find you gone. Well, it's an east sweet bomb, I'm gonna put your hair brakes on. You're the lady, oh, the lady, you're the lady. Some like Chicago, some like Memphis, Tennessee. Some like Chicago, some like Memphis, Tennessee. Give me sweet Dallas, Texas, where the girls think the world of me. Hey, oh, sometimes I wish you was dead. Now the way I've been treated, sometimes I wish you was dead. 'Cause I ain't got a place to lay my weary head. You're the lady, oh, the lady. I was a big fan of his. He played Mark guitar too. So did Jimmy Rogers. For today I started loving you again, and I'm right back where I really always been. I got over you just long enough to let my heartache mend. Then today I started loving you again. What a fool I was to
think that I'll get by with all of these few million tears I've cried. I should have known that the worst was yet to come, and that crying time for me had just begun. 'Cause today I started loving you again, and I'm right back where I've really always been. I got over you long enough to let my heartache mend. Then today I started loving you again. What a fool I was to think that I'd get by with all of these few million tears I've cried. I should have known that the worst was yet to come, and that crying time for me had just begun. 'Cause today I started loving you again, and I'm right back where I've really always been. I got over you just long enough to let my heartache mend. 'Cause today I started loving you again. 'Cause today I started loving you again.
Bracing versus forward shifted versus rear shifted. So this is an X bracing pattern. And forward shifted would refer to the position here versus rear shifted. That would be bringing it closer to the sound hole would be forward shifted, further away is rear shifted. And what that affects is as you bring it further away from the bridge,
This spreads out right here, that's what I was trying to tell you. And it makes that area where the bridge is a little more flexible.
and this is also a great example of scalloped versus non-scalloped. Now your basic standard production D28 does not have scallop bracing. In fact, this is a dovetail non-scallop bracing pattern. This would be like a bracing pattern on a D28. That ubiquitous model that's just like probably the single most famous model that we make, the D28. An HD28, the only difference is not just that it has the herringbone around the binding. It just makes it easily identifiable that it also has scallop bracing. So HD28s have scallop bracing. So what that is, as you can see, material is removed from the bracing. And what that does is you still have the strength of the bracing as it goes all the way across the top. But by removing some of the material, it'll lighten the mass on the top, allowing it to vibrate some more. That's a little more labor intensive. It adds to the price. And I've been asked, well, why don't you do that to all your guitars then? If that's better. Well, because again, it's subjective. Is it better? Some people love the way their D28 sounds just the way it is, without scallop bracing.
It's different.
It's different, that's all. Not necessarily better. But it does change the tonal quality because the top will vibrate a little more. But that's what we mean by scallop bracing. That's what we mean by forward versus rear shifted.
Yes, we have scalloped and non-scalloped, so we recommend that you buy one of each.
Very good.
That's the salesman coming out.
Anyway, is a guitar up here you want me to play and talk about? Another one that I haven't played yet? Or any further questions?
Why did y'all start making a Stradivon net?
Well, we took a bunch of defective Stratocasters and just cut them off. It's laminated, you know what kind of wood it is that they use?
The actual type of wood, no, I don't. Do we have an X series?
We have many here.
Guitar?
We have quite a few. Would you like to see?
Yeah.
Yes, let's bring one out so we can show, because it's easier to show than talk about. It is it's a laminated wood neck. It is wood,
Strong.
and it's very strong. That's the good thing about it.
It's so strong that when you use the truss rod, if you need to loosen or tighten the
Thank you.
truss rod, it takes a little more
Great, thanks.
loosening or tightening than a standard wood neck to get it to move. That's very strong.
It's usually pretty evident, it may be in the furthest rows back, but you can see the striping there, you can see it is a laminated neck, but it is wood. And that's the best part about it, is this is the one if I'm gonna take to the beach and I don't want my neck to work because of whatever, that's the best thing about these.
They sound great too.
Yeah, we ought to just play this guitar. I'll talk about this series real quick, the X series guitars. This is a DX1 RAE. D for Dreadnought, X because it's an X series. 1 means it has a solid spruce top. R for rosewood, but it's a rosewood, what we call HPL. That's high pressure laminate, back and sides. And all of the X series guitars come with a pickup. You just get a volume and tone control on the inside of the sound hole. And there's your input jack. That's a Dreadnought body size. We make them in triple O body size, double O body size, and different finishes, koa finish, mahogany finish. This is the rosewood. Real quick, we moved to Mexico specifically we used to make the X series in the US. We moved to Mexico because the company was growing so fast that they needed to either get another facility to have enough space to increase manufacturing capability, or they said maybe it's time we look at an alternative place, you know. And they didn't want to go to Asia. They said, you know, we
Don't
want
go to
stuff.
China.
Yeah, didn't want to do that. Mostly because they wanted to be able to quickly, you know, take a shorter flight and have control. So we have a facility in Mexico. It's not, we don't farm it out. We don't have somebody else make guitars for us. It's still our factory. Yes, we save money because the labor costs are less. That helps us to compete in the lower end market. The main reason, like I said, it was that we were looking to expand so we can make more of our regular series guitars. So these were initially made in the US, now they're made in Mexico. But the back and sides, the laminate back and sides, was because Chris Martin is this big, he's big into ecology, big into you know, the environmental responsibility. And he said, can we figure out a way to make guitars without just using, you know, hardwoods? Can we figure out using alternative materials without sacrificing that one thing I said earlier, sound, tone. Martin is all about tone. We're not going to sacrifice tone. So he said, I want you to figure out a way. So they came up with these materials, got it. Still should have a solid wood top. You know, that's your sounding board. So it's a solid Sitka spruce top with the laminate back and sides, and he'll play it for you, and I think you'll see it still sounds like a Martin.